Wow, you girls have blown me away totally. I wasn't sure what to expect when I came here, but I see passion, I see fire, and I see so much commitment to changing the story of the African girl child. And I'm so proud of you all. I just want to say that. So give yourself a huge round of applause. And the previous speakers, oh my God, you know, future politicians, future presidents, future leaders, and, really, really very delighted to see what you're doing here. So I'm going to share some of the work that I do at CNN. Just give you a little background. I've worked at CNN for 10 years. And, I've been a journalist for 20 years. And, the reason I love journalism is because it allows me to tell people stories. It allows me to give people a voice, like you girls. Anybody can come to me and say, I have a story I want the world to know about. And we investigate. That's our job as journalists. We investigate. And if there's something there, we publish it. And, we never take payment. So, that's never pay anyone to tell your story, because that's just advertising. Journalism is not advertising. I want to share some of the work that we've done that might inspire you. I really want to inspire you to go away and think about solutions. I don't think I really need to do that, because I think you're already inspired. And, I think Carolyn has played a great role in that, and your schools and your parents, you seem very motivated and committed. So that's really great. But I hope some of the stories I share today will inspire you to think about ways to change things in your communities, in your schools, in your area that you're not very happy about. Because, like Gandhi says, be the change. Does anyone know that quote? Yeah? Everyone know who Gandhi is? Yeah? So we have to be the change. The government has a part to play, for sure. But we have a civic responsibility. A fun fact about me is that I am the only Nigerian, the first Nigerian, to head up any CNN bureau anywhere in the world. And, that makes me proud, because on the world stage, sometimes the Nigerian reputation is not very good. But that's not the whole story about Nigeria. I'm a very proud Nigerian. I grew up here. I was born here, but I moved away when I was a little bit younger, as you can probably hear from my voice. But I moved back 2 years ago, and I'm convinced that part of moving back is to make a difference in the lives of young girls like you. So at CNN, we believe in celebrating African achievements. And, we try to improve lives through reporting. So some of the examples I'm going to show you now are some of the people that we've worked with, some of the stories that we've told on CNN, on TV, and online. So I'm sure all of you know this young lady. Everybody knows her? Yes. I didn't know her. My daughter's 7. And my daughter introduced me to her. She was like, Mommy, don't you know Emanuela? And I think she's great. She won a YouTube award. She won an award in Australia. So she's not just known in Nigeria. She's known all over the world. And I thought her story was really remarkable, that she's just taken her brand of comedy and won hearts all over the world. So when you think about what you can do, when you think about your potential, don't just limit yourself to Nigeria. You really can take your talent and your ideas to the world. Think globally. I wanted to talk about this young lady because she started coding when she was 9 years old. And anyone heard of Sophia the robot? So there's a robot that's like a human, and she speaks and responds. So she was part of the team in Ethiopia who helped to build Sophia the robot. She's 19 years old now, and she's been coding for 10 years. So don't ever let anybody limit you to say you're too young, or there's no such thing as too young. If you have passion, drive, and commitment, you can make your ideas happen. And she did that. And Ethiopia is not the most advanced place technologically. So she really had to work very hard to make her ambitions and dreams come true. I'm sure you've all heard of these girls who went to Silicon Valley and won a major tech award. So I interviewed them when they came back. And one of the most remarkable thing about these girls was that they learned to do the coding in 5 months. And when they started coding, the lady, similar to Caroline, got a group of young girls together and said, do you want to learn how to code after school? And they were like, yeah, sure, why not? Some of them didn't speak English. Some of the girls that won this award didn't speak English at the start of the year when they started coding. Isn't that remarkable? So it just really goes to show that the limitations, you may come from a poor background, you may not have very much, but those things shouldn't hold you back. You may not be the best English speaker, you may not, there's certain things you're telling yourself, I don't have this, those things shouldn't hold you back, because they didn't hold them back, and they've been celebrated all over the world for this remarkable achievement that's going to make an impact here in Nigeria. Every year we celebrate young African girls on International Day of the Girl. But this particular year, we decided to do a campaign across the website and social media just to and then we use the hashtag African Girls Rock. Am I right? Yeah? Say it with me. That's right. We totally rock. No matter what anybody says about us, we know that we rock. So what we decided to do was spotlight young women who are just doing remarkable things. So Zuriel Oduwole decided to become a filmmaker. I think she was 10 or 11. She's interviewed more than 20 heads of states, more than 20 presidents. She has interviewed them, and she's still only 14. She decided to start making documentaries and doing interviews. She's interviewed President Busari. She's interviewed President Sirleaf. She's, I think, maybe interviewed President Obama as well. But, she just decided that she wanted to tell world leaders, she wanted to speak to them about the perspective from a young lady. She's a Nigerian, Zuriel. She's based abroad, but she's a filmmaker, and she's, also an education advocate. And then on the left is Zuleika Patel. So Zuleika goes to school in South Africa, and she has an afro. She has an amazing afro. But in South Africa, the school told her that her hair was not suitable for school. And she was kicked out of school because of her hair. They tried to make all sorts of excuses. Oh, it's too big. You're blocking the view. All sorts of nonsense. So she started a movement in South Africa and, challenged the school. They had protests and, the school actually backed down. And this was covered globally, this story. So she really spoke up for the rights. Why shouldn't she wear hair? It grows out of her head, it's ridiculous. So she took on that racist school policy and won. And then we have, on the next slide, we have Kaya Forson, who is an Olympic swimmer. She's 14 years old. She's from Ghana, and she took part in she represented Ghana in the last Olympics. I think there were about 10 of them. We spotlighted so many of them. And then the girls to the right also learned how to code in the north. They live in Borno State, and they learned how to code in defiance of Boko Haram. You've all heard of Boko Haram. Child bride, it's an issue here. Nigeria is ranked 122 out of 144 countries in the global gender gap. That means women are not treated very equally to men in this society. We need to change that. 1 in 4 women says she has experienced sexual violence in childhood. That is also something that is a challenge for young girls and women. And I mentioned earlier about Boko Haram. And it's not just the Chibok girls. More than 600 girls have been abducted from school by Boko Haram. 600 girls denied an education, and some of them have never been found. So, these are the challenges. These are the areas that we have to deal with, regardless of the gains that we make, regardless of all the positive things that we've talked about. We cannot deny these realities. That's the reality that you have to grow up in. And it's a sad reality because many young girls all over the world do not have to grow up in that reality. So it's a challenge that we must all take on, but you must all fight. You must fight against. So one of the things that CNN has done is we have a year-long focus on gender equality called As Equals. And some of the stories that we've covered include girls in Tanzania who have to take pregnancy tests. So when you go to school every week, you have to take a test to show that you're not pregnant. And if you fail, then you're kicked out of school. And while some people might say it's a good policy, I think there's nothing to be gained from denying a girl who has made a mistake an education, because it puts her in lifelong poverty if she doesn't get an education. So that's things that young girls have to deal with. And then we have this story in Sudan. I say this so that you know that it's not just in Nigeria. Girls all over Africa have to deal with these realities. An 11-year-old girl was given a death sentence because she killed her husband. Her name is Noura. And she was forced to marry this man when she was 9, and he was 38 years old. I mean, can you imagine being married to a 38-year-old man? And, she was abused by him, and one day she cracked and she killed him. And that is not right by any means, but there were circumstances that led to this terrible situation. She's still in prison. She was given a death sentence, but I think that's been commuted now, but she remains in prison. She's 11 years old. This is the reality that African women have to face. And as part of our reporting, we're committed to highlighting these stories, to making sure that there is a global spotlight, that governments around the world can put pressure on the leaders of these countries where these things are happening. And all of your voices count towards that, by the way. So we also cover social justice stories. There's the Me Too movement. You've heard of the Me Too movement? Yes? So women around the world are talking about sexual abuse. Sexual abuse is not just limited to Nigeria. It's everywhere. And women are speaking out. So in February this year, 111 girls were kidnapped from a school in Dapchi. Thankfully, most of them were released, but one girl remains. Does anyone know her name? Leah Sharibu. Don't forget her name. Her friends came back and told her parents that she refused to become a Muslim. She refused to renounce Christianity. That is why Boko Haram has still got her held, in their custody. So she's 15 years old. Extremely brave decision to make. She's 15 years old. Don't forget her name. And then, of course, we have the Chibok girls. So this is a story that's really personal to me. I've covered this story for 4 years. Since that time, I've met a lot of the parents. I've met some of the girls themselves, you'll see. And many people said it was a hoax. Many people said it was not true. I'm sure many of you have heard that. Who's heard that? I can tell you as clear as we are sitting here, that this story is real. I have met the parents. I have spoken to them. I've met the girls themselves who came back from Boko Haram captivity. So this is a still from a video. In 2016, the Chibok girls nobody was talking about them 2 years after it happened. Everyone had moved on. But I was able to get a video that showed that they were still alive. And that's 15 of them in this video. It was sent to me by someone who knew that I was working on the story and close to the story. So this was the first time anybody had seen the Chibok girls for 2 years. This video had been filmed by Boko Haram as negotiations with the government to release them. It was all done behind the scenes, but it was leaked to me. Sometimes this happens with journalists. People leak information to them. No one was paid any money for this. And myself and a team of CNN colleagues traveled to Borno, to Maiduguri, to speak with parents of the girls. We identified the girls in a video, and we called some of the parents. We didn't tell them what we were doing. We didn't tell them, why we were asking them to meet us, but we wanted to verify, to make sure that they saw the video. And it was a 30-second video. And the girls were in the video saying, my name is whatever. I was taken from Chibok school on this day. So they were actually confirming their identity. So we asked the parents to watch the video. And, I will never forget the reactions of those mothers when they saw their daughters. And, one of them said to me that if she could have gone into the laptop, so we took my laptop and we played the video for them. And she said if she could have gone into the laptop and pulled her daughter out, she would have done. And I'm a mother. I know exactly how she felt in that moment. So please don't ever let anybody tell you that this story is not real. It is real. There are families suffering because their children are still missing. So after this video was published on CNN, it was a world exclusive story. It went global. Everybody was talking about it. So the Nigerian government then entered into fresh negotiations with Boko Haram. And this video came out in April 2016. And by October 2016, 21 Chibok girls were freed. So I'm extremely proud of the small role that I was able to play in helping to get those 21 girls freed. And then the following year, 81 girls were then freed by Boko Haram after negotiations with the government. In the next slide, the characteristics of a good journalist and a CNN journalist. So you have to be persistent, and you have to be dedicated. You have to be rigorous. You have to be curious, be courageous, be creative, be ethical. These are really, really key characteristics. I can share these slides with Caroline and the team so they can forward it to you, so you don't have to take everything down. Thank you very much for listening.